Hello and welcome to Lesson 2, Culture Bias, Issues and Debates. What is culture? Culture refers to a set of customs, social roles, behavioural norms and moral values that are shared by a group of people. So let's apply our own culture to these criteria. In terms of behavioural norms, one of my favourite British behavioural norms is queuing. It is one of those things that we just do, and I was amazed the first time I turned up at university and found two orderly queues leading towards the bar in the local nightclub. Moral values, what do we believe is right and wrong? In the West, we're much more independent. We believe in individual freedom and personal liberty. This may not be the case in other cultures. Social roles, customs, and so forth. Take a custom in Asia, it's customary to wear flip-flops. So you will take off your shoes when you enter a house and then put on often community flip-flops. The idea of doing that from a British perspective is perhaps a little unusual. There are many customs around the world that we would find unusual. Traditionally, research has been carried out in Western societies and by Westerners, and this means that bias could creep into the research process. It might do so because we assume that Western and non-Western cultures are the same, that some non-Western cultures are basically too primitive, so not worthy of study, we're not going to learn anything, and there may be a lack of time and resources, so think about the need for translators, perhaps security guards and so forth to carry out research. Culture bias caused by research methods. Ethic research from specific cultures is sometimes applied to others, and we try and develop this as universal laws. So think about Miller and Jacobs' early work in short-term memory capacity. That seems pretty concrete. But the Pidaha, who are a group of tribesmen, have no concept of ordinal numbers. So if we try and apply STM capacity to the Pidaha, actually, we may not be able to do that. We're making the assumption that all cultures broadly have similar views on things like mathematics and science. And actually, there are many cultures that do not. There'll be a link later in the video to a documentary about the Pidaha. It's really interesting, well worth your time. So, generalizing findings beyond a particular culture may result in an imposed ethic, or what is sometimes referred to as an imposed bias. Emic research is based in a specific culture, and it isn't generalized to others. Bias may occur by exaggerating the differences between cultural groups and neglecting to look at differences within cultures. So, for example, Isendon and Kronenberg's research found that there's 1.5 greater differences within culture than between. And yet many of the studies sought to exaggerate the differences between the cultural groups, even though individual countries may have had more diversity in attachment types within it. Ethnocentrism. So ethnocentrism refers to the process by which we take our own culture to represent the norm and judge others by it. Van Isendorn, for example, and Ainsworth and many others assumed that type B was the norm, when in fact in Germany and Japan the norm was completely different. Other examples, Ash and Milgram, which you can read here. Social implications of cultural bias. Bias studies produce bias theories, and that's true in the same way that invalid research produces invalid theories. Theories can have consequences. If, for example, research is biased and portrays one group in negative light, that can then be used to justify